This is the BMW X3 M40i. Now I know people get upset when I call this an M car, but what I am going to tell you is that this is one quick SUV.
The old 35i wasn't really built for speed though. It wasn't slow, but it wasn't an M performance car. The X3 M40i is based on the G1 X3, the third generation of BMW's midsizer. Think Audi Q5 size. It's got the M140's B58 turbo straight six pumping out 265 kilowatts, which is 360 horsepower, and 500 newton meters.
That's enough to shift this 1.8 tonne car, it's a lot of weight, to 100 or 62 miles an hour in under 5 seconds. It's quicker than the Audi SQ5. You've got 21-inch wheels, M Performance brakes, M Performance badging, a bit more stuff. These awful silver capped, I don't like these. They look better on this car than they do on the M140i, but I don't like them. Tell me what you think. It's got its own all-wheel drive system. Now, what's special about this as far as BMW SUVs go, it's got an M Sport differential, which means when you want to have a bit of fun, it's there for you. So it can put all the power to either side, and it can act, because of the all-wheel drive system, a bit more rear-wheel drivey.
It's a bit tough to pick the M40i apart. It's got a different coloured grille, the wheels obviously, different bumpers and skirts, and this nice set of exhausts, which look and sound good when you're in sport mode.
This is a first for the red line. It's a car with a big boot. It's such a big boot, you can get a washing machine in here. That's exciting, isn't it? No? Just me then? Fair enough. Anyway, if you like cars and if you like this video, please subscribe, click like, leave a comment. It's great to have you on board, and if you hit the subscribe button, you'll see more of this. The interior of this is quite nice. It's very functional, very BMW, but it's lifted a bit with these bits of trim and all sorts of bits and pieces. This X3 is actually bigger than the first X5, and it really feels it's quite big inside, so if you've got a family, this is quite a good family car. Front seats are fantastic, they really grip you, heaps of adjustment, they're leather, and they've got all the bits and pieces and lumber, and so when you're really on it, you don't slide around. I like the chunkiness of this steering wheel, but it's not a proper M wheel. It's got this weird boss that they're putting on the cars now that looks like it doesn't fit, and I don't know, give me a proper M wheel any day. Big 12.3-inch digital dash. It's not as interesting as the Audi virtual cockpit, but it does look good. I mean, all it really does is do what an analog thing does with different colors. So yeah, I don't know, that could have been a bit more interesting. 10.25-inch iDrive 6, so that's the latest version of iDrive. It's very good, but it's not so good that you're going to miss Apple CarPlay, so do spend the money. Yeah, I know, spend the money to get Apple CarPlay. But this is all boring stuff. You don't care about boots and seats and stuff. You want to know how it drives. Really well, actually. I've got to say I was a little bit surprised as to how much I like this car. So I really wasn't expecting it to be as planted and sure-footed, and I don't honestly know why I thought that way. It's very strange. We know what BMW can make a cracker of a car. I think it's partly because this is the first M Performance X3, and the X3 in the past has always been a little bit kind of on the plush side. So maybe that was my problem. I just hadn't thought about it in a performance way. I mean, I was also very taken with the X5M when I first drove it, because I was amazed by it. I mean, it helped that it had a stonking great twin turbo V8. Like, it really helped. But yeah, this straight six, this is such a beautiful engine. There's clearly a lot more to come from it, but it's just wonderful. The way it revs really cleanly to the red line, just whoop, whoop, whoop. And it sounds great. Like, you can't really hear it inside the car, because inside here is actually pretty quiet. You only really hear the tyre noise from the big Pirelli P0s. Very good tyres, by the way. Yeah, you don't really hear it, but you wind the windows down, and if you're out in the in the bush like I am here, it pops. It sounds really good, and it's quite exuberant, because most BMW engines just aren't as, well, they're not as silly as the Mercs or some of the Audis. I happen to quite like the silliness, but it's not as silly. Whereas, yeah, this is quite, it's got some pop and bang, and I really like it. It's yeah, that's good. So yeah, we're liking the suspension. We love the engine. The B58, it's so smooth. It's got this plasma coating on the cylinder linings. Like, it really does feel almost frictionless. Like, it can be revving at 6,000 if you've left it in manual and forgotten to shift up, and you're just kind of driving it. But it doesn't feel like it's straining or stressing. I think that's really impressive. But I think what's really got me is the steering, because it's just perfectly weighted. It's perfectly weighted. It actually feels properly connected to the front of the car, which sounds stupid, but this is a big car. There's no mucking about with the steering, so it feels really connected to the road. You know, BMW steering doesn't always have the feel that you might want. This has got it. It's such a great engine. Oh, and I'm going way too quickly. It still feels high, which is weird, because in the SQ5 or the GLC 43, and I'm going to come back to the GLC in a sec, the GLC 43, they feel quite a bit lower, whereas this still feels like a normal height X3. It's obviously not, it's lower, but you still feel like you've got that kind of commanding driving position that everyone goes on about in SUVs. So that's quite interesting. And then, so I guess maybe that's where my surprises come from in the way it handles, because it handles really well. It's flat, it's grippy, like it really grips in the corners. Of course, the all-wheel drive is a big factor in that, but it really grips. And it feels really good. So the two main competitors for this car are the Mercedes GLC 43 and the Audi SQ5. Now, the 43, I don't like. There's nothing wrong with it as a car, but the ride is appalling. It's so bad. And it constantly feels like it's hitting the stops. Every time you hit a bump, you feel like it's just going to throw you off the road. It's not great. The GLC 63, which is quite a bit more expensive, at least here in Australia it is, but it's pretty much more expensive everywhere else. Completely different kettle of fish, and it's got no direct competitor at the moment. That's basically out on its own until, Jaguar's SVR comes out. And anyway, so this is the 43. So the 43 isn't a patch on this. This is much closer to the SQ5 than I was expecting. It's slightly quicker than the SQ5, which has a 3-litre V6 turbo. It is slightly bigger than the SQ5, so there's a bit more room inside, particularly in the back. And for those of you who are worried about space for the kiddies, I mean, teenagers can sit in the back of this, no problem. I mean, I've got a 6'2" teenager, and he's quite happy in the back. Given all of that, and it's a bit heavier, given all of that, it's really close to the SQ5. The SQ5's a bit tauter, and it's a bit more, it's got a stiffer chassis than this, but this gets away with having a bit more roll and a bit better ride quality, while still going like the clappers around corners. I love the way this thing corners. It's really good. It doesn't feel like it's going to tip over or anything stupid like that. And that diff in the back, it's really good. Like the way the diff just hooks the car up into the corners and makes you feel like you're in a much smaller car. I mean, yeah, it's got the same engine as the M140i, which is significantly smaller and lighter than this. But if you can't get away with an M140i because you've got, family, or you need to carry things or whatever, this isn't a bad option if you need a more family-oriented car with more space and more, more everything really. This has got a lot more stuff than an M140i does. So at 1.8 tonnes, you'd think the brakes would struggle, and again, they don't. I mean, of course they're steels. Carbon ceramics would be ridiculous on this car. It'd be stupidly expensive too. The Big M Performance calipers are very strong. They really haul the car down from speed. I'd never felt like I had to brake earlier than I would in say a 3 Series or something like that. It's really good fun. I just wish it wasn't so dour looking. It's really not a particularly attractive car. I'm quite a fan of Calvin Luck's work. He fixed the 1 Series after its dire second generation release look. I mean, it looked terrible, and he fixed it, and he's done a lot of really terrific work at BMW, and just, I don't know, the X3's never really quite worked. This is the best looking X3 by a country mile, don't get me wrong about that, but yeah, this BMW thing of making the grille a bit kind of prominent and kind of like a boxer holding its nose out to get whacked. Not on board with it. But really, I've been really impressed by this. I wasn't quite ready for it to be this good, because the SQ5 is such a good car. It is an extraordinary car. This is, for the first attempt at this size, BMW's nailed it. First go. Good job. So what's really good about this car, as far as it being an all-rounder and a car you can have every day, I mean obviously it's an everyday car, is it's a really good cruiser. Like in comfort mode, this feels like any other X3, just with more power and big wheels. I mean, the wheels are massive, but they don't completely ruin the ride. There's, over sharp bumps, you really feel it, but that's partly to do with the lack of compliance in the run flat tyres, so the sidewalls don't have any give, so you hit a bump and it's kind of a boom, boom, boom. But as a cruiser, it's really good. And so the adaptive suspension means that in comfort mode, it just feels like any other X3. And that's good for, some of us have partners who aren't on board with fast, sporty grrr. And so therefore, this car is perfectly good for them. And it means that they can get in the car and not feel intimidated, and not feel worried that it's going to be a bit much for them, or that it's not comfortable enough to take Granny to church or whatever it is you do with Granny. It's a supremely comfortable car when it's in comfort mode. There's even an Eco Pro mode on this, which is hilarious. Like, really funny. I mean, it pretty much ruins the drive, but I'm sure it saves fuel, and if you need that, that's great. All power to you, but I can't see many X3 M40i owners taking much advantage of Eco Pro. I don't mind cars that have Eco Pro, and if you want to use it, terrific. Just can't see it. And that is one of the great things about this car. It's the throttle response. There's so little turbo lag in this car. The engine spins really, really quickly, and it feels almost like we're back to the days of naturally aspirated BMW 3-litre 6s. And I owned a 130i M Sport, which had that beautiful free revving straight 6. And this, we're almost there again, and that's amazing. I mean, turbo tech has really come along and made cars feel, particularly sports cars feel, the way they should.
The BMW X3 M40i is BMW's first proper go at a fast mid-size SUV. The Audi SQ5 finally has a competitor that can really take it to it. Which one would I pick? I'm not sure. I think the X3 is a bigger, better car, but the SQ5 is... Whoa. The only way to solve this is to drive them back to back.